All right, Algebra 1A students, welcome to part 2 of lesson 2.2, where we're talking about solving two-step equations, isolating variables that have two different operations happening to them. To start with, we have to undo both. So we will start by looking at a specific example here in this problem 3. What we have to notice is that the top of this fraction that's on the left side is what is dealing with our variable here. So our variable is x, and we see x minus 7 on the top of this fraction, and then it's over 3. Like all of that is being divided by 3, and it equals negative 12. Okay. So I put parentheses around the top of that fraction because that's really the way that we need to think about this problem. We need to think about the top of that fraction like being in parentheses or being grouped together, okay, on the top of that fraction. Because remember, the order of operations that we're trying to do in the backwards order is PEMDAS, where P stands for parentheses. So the top of the fraction needs to be treated like a P, okay, like it's in parentheses. So the top of the fraction is like a P, which means that's what we need to undo last. So in order to solve this problem and figure out what x equals and isolate the variable x, the first thing we have to undo is actually the division, okay, because that came after the parentheses in order of operations, so we have to undo it first. So in order to undo the dividing by 3, I'm going to times both sides of this equation by 3. And then I'll cancel the 3's here, and then I'll multiply a 3 on the other side as well. Okay, and what I end up with is just canceling out the denominator of that fraction, and I'm just left with x minus 7 on that side, right? And it equals, now the other side I have to do negative 12 multiplied by 3. Negative 12 times 3 gives me negative 36. So my equation now says x minus 7 equals negative 36. Okay, and now I'm just doing one thing to that x variable. All I'm doing is minusing 7, so I will undo the minus 7 by adding 7. Okay, but the reason I'm doing this second, again, is because that was in parentheses on the top of that fraction. Okay, that was in parentheses on the top of the fraction. So when I add 7, obviously I cancel out the minus 7 over here, and all I'm left with is x. The other side is now says negative 36 plus 7, which gets me up to negative 29, I believe. So in this case, my x value is negative 29. Negative 29 because I undid the dividing by 3. The bottom of that fraction, I got rid of that first, and then I added 7 to both sides to isolate x and get it all by itself. So when we see a variable with a plus or minus on the top of a fraction, the first thing we have to undo is the bottom of that fraction by multiplying both sides by the denominator. Then we can undo the adding or subtracting that's happening on the top of that fraction. Okay? So this kind of flips the order from yesterday, but it doesn't really, because remember we're thinking of the top of this fraction like it is in parentheses. Okay? I'd like you to try one problem for me. And then that'll be the end of this quite short video, actually. I'd like you to try solving 6 equals x minus 2 all over 4. So again, we see on the top of the fraction an x minus 2, and I'm going to think of that as if it's in parentheses. So put that in parentheses and then undo the division first, and then undo whatever's happening in the parentheses. So try to isolate x there. Pause the video, take a minute and look at that, and then come on back, and I'll show you what we should get. In the end here, x should equal 26, because we times both sides by 4 and get that x minus 2 is 24. 6 times 4 is 24. So x minus 2 equals 24. And then we add 2 to both sides and get that x is 26. If you have any questions about seeing the top of a fraction as if it's in parentheses, or what that means for undoing the two operations here, please make a note to ask me in class tomorrow. Otherwise, that's all I have for you. Have a wonderful night.